About 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks ago now, a very good friend of mine passed away, and I've learned a lot from this experience. Um, Specifically, today I'm going to be talking about how this might relate to you and something that should be thinking about um, if you are a fan of esports, and it will make more sense as I go on. So I've put off making this video for quite some time, and I think the reasoning behind that would be relatively obvious to most people. My friend Jake was the best Dota player and best StarCraft 2 player, and these were, my primary esports, that I ever met in real life, that I ever met from a non-esports context, and then grew to, like, I found out quickly that they were an esports fan. I walked into a friend's house, and one of her roommates told me beforehand that her boyfriend played Dota, and he introduced me. And if you play Dota, when you meet someone in real life, if you play any esport, when you first meet someone that is also a fan of that game, you're a little bit adversarial at first. You're a little bit abrasive, almost, in some sense. It's if they say they're a fan of the game and you play the game competitively, so you're like 4K or 5K, or you really worked hard to get 3K and you're proud of it, there's a certain level of pride and there's a certain level of, like, gatekeeping that goes on there. And when we first met, we were both, when we first met, we were both a little bit adversarial, and a little bit, this guy says he's good at Dota. What is he talking about? So he asked me my MMR, and I said 4750, and he's like, oh, I'm 4700. And it was like immediately we just became really good friends. I met this gentleman in the fall of 2014, early 2015, and it's the fastest I've ever really gotten close to someone. And I've driven to his house. I drove several hours to where he was going to school and spent the weekend down there and helped give his girlfriend a ride there and back before. He's a very good friend and always made sure to stop by and see me whenever he came to town. We only played one game of Dota 2 together, and he was raging out, but I was also, but not at me, but to the rest of our allies, and I felt really bad because it was completely my fault. I was just playing anti-mage, and if you watch my channel, you know I have no business playing anti-mage at 4700 MMR. And at his service, the very front page of his memorial service had a picture of him on top of a Zergling that he drew in high school. This guy bled esports. And it was probably the hardest, like, memorial service I've ever been to in my life. It was definitely the best, and it was almost certainly the heaviest I'd ever been to. But I didn't know him for that long. I'm making this video on April 17th of 2018. That's when I'm recording this footage, and he passed away less than 2 months ago, and it was crushing when I heard that he died. It really was. I felt like he was a really good friend. He was a really close friend, and we didn't talk that often over the last year, but the time leading up to 2017 especially, and for the early part of 2017, we were in super close communication. I actually called him the week of the interview I did with Mike Savo, from Try Mike, for instance, the YouTube channel. And that week that I called him and told him about the interview, I mentioned that Frey557, who created the original video Wolves Need No Armor, that when I reached out to him for that interview, he knew who I was and had watched my Lycan guide as part of him learning to play the hero. And I think to this day, Jake was the only person that really understood how much that meant to me. And this, I have, like, he's not the closest person to me in my life. He wasn't the closest person to me in my life. He wouldn't make the top 5. He might have made the top 10. Definitely would have made the top 20, but he wasn't that close to me. But my best friend, my closest and dearest friend, he knew it was a big deal to me, but I don't think even he understood the gravity of it the way Jake did. When I called Jake and told him, he said something along the lines of, and I'm going to paraphrase and do as good of a job as I can. I can't even understand how you must feel right now. I can't even imagine how you feel right now, I think was what he said. And I talked to him within a couple weeks of his death. I talked to him pretty close to that time. And it was that conversation. And the takeaway from this, the really, really powerful thing this has shown me, and my best friend once said, I believe this actually before Jake passed away, he said, I wonder how our friendship would be different if we played the same game, because my best friend is a big Dark Souls guy and he plays Overwatch. I don't mean to be using this video to rag on other games, but he said, I wonder what it would be like if we came from the same game. And at the time I said, we'd share a lot of memes, we would share a greater deal of culture, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And Jake was someone that I think I would have been friends with anyway, but we definitely would not have become as close as we did, as quickly as we did, if it weren't for Dota 2, and if it weren't for StarCraft 2. So the takeaway from this is play your friends' games with them. Play games together. I want, as much as I hate the game, I want to learn the basics of Overwatch, and I really want to bring in my other friends to games like Dota, to games like StarCraft 2. Because of this shared esports culture, when you're really big into the meat of it, you understand what 322 is, you understand the historical context of solo throwing that game, you understand all these different memes, please Mr. Lizard, Dracus, you gotta stop. All of that sort of stuff, when you share that like super, super niche gaming culture within a gaming culture within a gaming culture, you really do build really tight and close bonds really, really quickly. And I guess that's the most important takeaway of this. Play games with your friends. Appreciate your friends for who they are and the experiences you have with them, because you really have no idea. You can be really blindsided by this sort of thing. But the positive takeaway, the thing that I can say that you can actually do and practice to improve your relationship with your friends and really improve your life, is to share those games with them, share those hobbies with them, try to understand the elements that make up their specific subcultures of gaming that you are interested in. Because if you share that with them, if you share the emotional value and the historical value and all of the context around the cultures of these games, you become so much closer, so much more quickly. So thank you very much. Rest in peace, Jake. Thank you for a lot of memories. I'm debating showing a picture of Jake. I will. Oop. And this is my friend Jake. It's one of the last pictures of him. One of the final pictures of him. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that there was some valuable takeaway from it. And hopefully new content coming soon from me. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.